put like six figures just on my vision board. And I'm like, oh, that'd be really crazy if I did that. I hit the six figures, I think, 6 months through 2024.
Welcome, everyone, to the Closing Table Podcast, real accounts from real estate professionals brought to you by WindowStill. I'm your host, Kat Schooler, and today I'm sitting down with Nicole Williams. Nicole is a real estate agent out in Savannah, Georgia, and today we sit down and talk about how mentorship played a crucial role in Nicole's early success, how she has her own mission now to empower other women, and how kindness is the key to relationships in real estate. So let's dive right into my chat with Nicole. Nicole, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited to sit down and talk with you. And I would love to start our conversation off with how you started your journey in real estate.
Absolutely. And thank you for having me. I love talking about this. I'm super passionate whenever it comes to talking about real estate, and especially my journey. I am one of those agents who got into the business during COVID, as many of us did. I was at this point where I got my associate's degree in business, and I didn't, have the support or funds to kind of go back to school for another 2 years. So during COVID, I kind of just sat down and kind of really thought through, what I wanted to do. At that point, I was 21 years old and I had no real guidance on kind of what to do next. So after binge watching many Netflix shows and HGTV, I kind of found my passion in real estate through that. And I think the really cool thing about this industry is that, you watch these shows and you're like, oh, I want to do that. Like, that looks really cool. But, you get to do it your way, right? So real estate is so unique where every agent, operates their business very differently. So after I figured out, like, this is what I want to do, I got into real estate school and I just started studying. I took the test. I passed the first time, which was amazing. And then I kind of like, no one teaches you what to do next, right? So, I was renting a room at a time in New Jersey, and I got a magazine in the mail, and it was inside the magazine, there was an article, and it was a real estate agent in the town that I was living in at the time. And she just wrote a really amazing, empowering article, just about real estate, being a woman in real estate and owning your own business. And so I kind of reached out to her right then and there, and said, hey, like, are you looking to mentor someone? Like, would you be open to mentoring me? And, she replied pretty quickly after and said, let's grab coffee. And after our first meeting, we hit it off. And I don't even think I was officially licensed yet, but I was, shadowing her in and out of homes. And we kind of just, like, I hit the ground running ever since I met with her and I joined her team. So, that's kind of where I started. And honestly, it was like the best decision I've ever made.
Oh, wow. What a cool story to read something that inspires you and reach out to that person and have them even, one, let alone respond, and then two, take you under their wing. That is so cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think during that time too, I created like a vision board, and I put everything on the vision board that I wanted to accomplish that year, because we all know that was like just such a crazy year. And passing my test was one of them. But when I cut out because her like tagline or her Instagram bio or tagline was the New Jersey real estate boss. And I was like, God, that sounds so cool. Like, I want to be the New Jersey real estate boss. So when I put it on there, and then months later, I was on the boss team. Like, it was really cool to see everything kind of come to fruition.
How are things going for you now? You kind of mentioned nobody tells you, what happens next, and that you can develop kind of your own business. So what did developing a business that works best for you look like?
Yeah, so kind of crazy because I'm no longer in New Jersey right now. I'm actually in Savannah, Georgia. And I moved here about a year and a half ago, and to kind of pick up and leave your business behind is extremely hard because you work really hard, to kind of pick up these clients. Real estate is not one of those industries where things are handed to you. So after, being on this women's team and creating what I did, to pick up and use everything that I've learned and apply it in this new market has been extremely successful for me. So obviously the first couple months kind of getting familiar with the area and just meeting agents, in this market was kind of my main goal. And then I think meeting clients and meeting people and learning just comes naturally to me. So at this point, I'm a solo agent. I have a transaction coordinator. I'm doing all the marketing as of now, but working on hiring for someone for that. But I am just operating on my own here in Savannah, and I absolutely love it.
And you kind of have your own mission to help empower women as well, correct?
Yeah, so I love connecting with people. It's one of my favorite things to do. And, pretty quickly I realized there weren't a ton of groups that support women in this area. And that's something I wanted to accomplish. So I had started initially a networking group called Savannah Girlies, and it was geared towards Savannah girls, in their 20s and 30s, just trying to get out there and make new friends. This is an area where people come and go frequently, and it could be hard to kind of find your way. And I recently just partnered with another girl who is actually originally from New York, so we kind of hit it off that way. And she had set this or created this group called Square 25, and it's geared towards young professionals. And for me, because I'm just naturally business minded, I really liked her approach. So we kind of put our heads together, and I came up with the Leading Ladies. And the Leading Ladies is exactly what our bio says. We're there to empower women and provide events or workshops that are that give value and just in a space where women can empower each other.
It's so cool that it's like a very full circle journey, right? You found a mentor who empowered you, and now here you are, kind of giving back in a way that you needed years ago.
Yep, exactly. And I love it. It's extremely fulfilling. Both jobs, right? Real estate and just doing this other Leading Ladies group. So
Nicole, I'm curious about your client relationships and what it's like for clients to work with you.
yeah, so I think in the beginning it was a struggle for me because I felt like when I first moved to Savannah, I kind of stuck out, and I was like, oh, I'm not from here. It's there's a lot of old history and people who are from Savannah is obvious. And so for me, kind of like being an outsider from up north, I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to mesh with this market. So I think I turned that limiting belief into, a superpower, if you want to call it, because I quickly realized when I got down here that I have a hustle mentality that I got from up north that a lot of agents don't have down here. So, when you work with me, I think in the very beginning stages of getting extremely clear on what their goals are and what their why is and why they're looking for a home or selling their home. And, if you're buying in this instance, it's not just, showing you homes that are on the market. I'm going to go the extra mile and kind of reach out to agents in the industry that I've built a relationship with and saying, hey, do you have X, Y, and Z that could fit my client's needs? So it's kind of going the extra mile for certain things like that. But, I think I pride myself in responding really quickly because that's just how I am. This is my full-time job and I love it so much. And I just want to make sure that my clients have, the care and the attention that they deserve. I hear a lot of stories where clients, were not treated properly or not, weren't handled with care. And essentially this is the largest investment that you're going to make. And I think, clients only deserve the best.
I would agree. Can you think of a particularly rewarding or challenging transaction where you learned something?
Um, I feel like they're all very rewarding. I can't think of one where I've like, wasn't because it's a huge purchase and they're all my clients are extremely deserving and the hard work that they put into to get their home. But I think nothing beats, like when representing a seller and they've had a tough time selling it in the past, and then kind of just going in there, and kind of figuring out why it wasn't selling, like what wasn't working, right? So I had this situation in Georgia. It was an investor who found me on YouTube, and I was helping him, source properties for his 1031 exchange, and he was needing to sell one of them, but it just wasn't selling for whatever reason with a different agent. And so once that agreement expired, he allowed me to kind of come into the property and kind of, figure out what needed to be adjusted. And then I think within 7 days we got it under contract and it closed in like 25 days. So, from being on the market for like 75 days with another agent and then being able to close it in less than that, it's always a really good feeling.
Wow. Do you know maybe like what is it you think you did differently?
I think it's, I feel like some agents think that they can get away with doing some of the bare minimum things, like taking photos on their iPhone, for example. Um, I'm big on social media, and I know that first impressions are everything. So it's, spending the extra money to get professional photos, taking videos, like casual walkthrough videos, posting them on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, promote like running ads, on all those different platforms and just being communicative. Like even before it hit the market, I was reaching out to agents saying, hey, I have this coming. Do you think you have an investor? To create that buzz before it even hit the market, because so many homes are hitting the market. And like, if you're able to kind of find out about something before it does, it's like, it feels like a gem to some agents or to some buyers. So it's just being extremely proactive with the process and just, really fine tuning the listing, the photos, the marketing, everything involved.
Nicole, what advice would you have for first-time home buyers in this current market?
So first time home buyers, I do work with a number of them. And I think one thing that they all have in common is that they just don't know where to start. Um, they have these goals or these dreams that they want to buy a house one day, but they don't know where to start. And even if you don't think that it's attainable in the next 6 months or 12 months, I think the best thing that you can do is connect with someone that you trust, whether that's a realtor or a mortgage lender, and come up with a plan with your realtor. And the most important piece is the financing, right? So you're going to need to finance the property, and figuring out what exactly you need to do in order to reach your goal in X amount of months or years, whatever that is. And you wouldn't know that unless you don't connect with a mortgage lender, right? So it's really getting specific with your goals, and just getting that knowledge, because as a first time home buyer, you don't know what you don't know. So it's finding somebody on both ends, the real estate and the mortgage side, and just having those two advisors kind of walk you through the process and eventually and how to buy your first home.
And then what advice would you have for sellers?
Yeah. Um, so first time sellers, same thing, right? So this is a process that they're very unfamiliar with, and they don't know what they don't know. So sellers are very different because they could be selling for a number of reasons, right? It could be job relocation, it could be, upsizing, downsizing, a million different reasons. And I think it's going to depend for each seller depending on that reason. But the sooner that, that you can find a realtor and let them know that you're thinking of selling, the better. Because, it, it's even as small things as timing, right? Like when you want to go on the market. I always say the best time to sell is the spring market, because that's when all the buyers are out and that's when you're going to get the most amount of money. So if you could hold on that, that would be great. And it's connecting with, like if you have a tax advisor, right? If you've only owned the home for a year and a half, you're going to have to pay capital gains. So is it worth it to sell? Or should you keep it for another year or even keep it as a rental property? There's so many different things that you can do there. And again, it's sitting with the seller and really figuring out what their game plan is and really trying to figure out, what the best plan is for them. Because it's not always to sell, and I am not that agent who's going to be super pushy and tell them, you should sell, even if it doesn't make sense to them. So, there's a lot that goes into that, but it's all about just listening and figuring out a plan for them.
I'm curious because, you talk so much about marketing and the importance of social media, what your overall approach is to social media for not only, branding your houses, but for branding yourself.
Yeah. So that's how I got started in Savannah. Social media is so important. Like it's more important than I feel like it ever was before. And I feel like it's an advantage of being a younger agent and being super savvy with that because some of these older agents they don't know the importance and they're not savvy with social media. Um, so social media is huge. This is where majority of your buyers are, right? So scrolling through TikTok late at night or on Instagram, Facebook, whatever it is, they're always going to be on it. And it's making sure that you're, from the videos, having a good hook or showcasing the property in the best way possible. And then when it comes to branding, it's showing who you are as an agent authentically. That was something I had trouble with for a long time. And then when I started doing it, I noticed a really positive reaction. For example, I posted a video. We bought our house a couple months ago, and I posted something like, after all the childhood trauma and after everything I've been through, I finally have a house and it's mine. And like for me, like it's super uncomfortable to post that stuff because it's like I'm being vulnerable, right? But that's what people want to see because people can most likely relate, right? And it makes that person feel seen or heard. But it's more than just sold or for sale or whatever that is. It's getting deeper into like who I am as an agent, and kind of what I believe in. So I've only gotten positive reactions and responses from being authentic and marketing myself that way. So yeah, it's been super important in my business for sure.
Thank you for sharing because I think, we do hear that people crave authenticity online. And it's nice to hear other people's examples of what that is because I think we throw this word around a lot. And at a certain point, it's like, but what does it even mean? Right? What does authenticity and vulnerability online look like? So sometimes it's not examples that you can like talk about. Sometimes you just have to see it.
Right. Exactly. Definitely.
Nicole, I'm curious what kind of habits and routines you have that help you stay successful in real estate.
So that's one I'm not gonna lie, I always struggle with. I think one of the things about real estate is that, every day is different, which is great, but it could also kind of be extremely hard when you're trying to create routine. So, I mean, in the morning, I'm huge on like movement and meditation. So those two I always try to incorporate into my day, just because it kind of centers me and gets me ready for the day. Um, and then in terms of like work routine, it's really like I had the hardest time for the longest time of just keeping on top of my emails. And I know a lot of people can probably relate to that. Like their emails just get like bombarded with like hundreds and thousands of emails. So staying on top of that has been huge. And then also just like making sure that I have proper systems. So like if I get someone asking, they found me on TikTok and they're reaching out to me because they want to buy a house. It's like, okay, well, what does that process look like? Because I don't want to be like, I don't want them to get lost. I don't want anyone to get, slip in the cracks or anything like that. So it's really making sure, okay, once I get this person who's interested in working with me, how do I handle that? So I have Google forms for people to kind of fill out their goals, and then we set up a call, and then I put them into an auto search so they get emails of listings, and then we go on tours, and then it's the transaction it goes from there. But yeah, systems are huge, because if you're not organized in real estate, you will be forgetting things, and it's like the worst feeling ever because usually once you forget things, it's too late. So it's something I'm still working on.
Yeah, but that's such a good tidbit. Once what was that again? It's too late. Once you've forgotten something, it's too late.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love that. Words to live by.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And I love the idea of a Google form too, because like it's kind of like when you go to the restaurant and you give your order and the server
Yeah.
doesn't write it down and you're like, but
Yeah.
wait, but wait,
Yeah.
are you sure
Yeah.
you know what I want? And
Exactly.
I'm a big fan of having things in writing. So I love that tidbit as well. Nicole, I'm wondering what you consider the biggest lesson you've learned in real estate is.
Oh my gosh, that's a big loaded question. Um, there's a lot. There's a lot, but a couple things. So I guess you don't get what you don't ask for. So, especially like when I was first starting out in the Savannah real estate market, I felt a little lost. Like I was explaining before, you know, this New Jersey girl who, I'm not familiar with the market. And for the longest time, I didn't ask for help. And so therefore I didn't get it. I reached a certain point where I was so tired of feeling, you know, just frustrated and confused and upset that there's things I didn't know about or that I feel like I should know. And, it took until that point when I started reaching out to agents and, I basically asked them like, hey, would you be willing to sit down for coffee and kind of like, can I pick your brain or can we just chat, whatever it is? And I've had, a handful of them just willing to do that. And so if I didn't do that, it's like I'm missing out on all of this valuable information. So it's really just not being scared to ask because, the answer could be yes, I think the other thing is relationships are a huge deal in this business. On the agent side, you never know when you're going to be doing a deal with that agent on the other side. So always be kind. I think that's my biggest motto is work hard, be kind. Like you just don't know. You don't want to be known as that mean, nasty agent when you're submitting your buyer's offer in a multiple bid situation. Like you don't want to be that one. And, in terms of like clients, it's, anywhere you go and everybody you meet, again, be kind. You don't know where your next deal is going to come from. It could be your mailman, right? Like being kind and friendly to him, getting to know him and telling him you're in real estate and him referring that, you to some clients. You just don't know. So relationships are everything, 100%. People are extremely valuable in this business for sure. I would say those are my top two.
I think that's great advice. I love leading with kindness because I think it just makes the world a better place.
Definitely, for sure. And a lot of people gotta like learn to live by that too, because there are a few that I've come by, and like when you're not kind, it's like, what's the point? What's the point? I don't go. I don't get it. When you lead with kindness, I find that everything works out better for you, and it's just a better feeling for everyone.
Totally agree. Nicole, are there any real estate myths you'd like to debunk?
Okay, so real estate myths. I feel like there's a lot of them. I feel like the biggest one, especially as of lately, because of the whole NAR settlement, is that if you go through the seller's agent, you're going to get a better deal, which is just not the case whatsoever. The listing agent, aka the seller's agent, has a fiduciary responsibility to the seller. If you're going to the seller's agent, how are they going to have your best interest at heart? It's not possible. They're there to represent the seller, and therefore you need your own representation. Period. I sometimes I just don't understand when buyers, don't fully get that. The other thing would be that the myth is all real estate agents are the same. I really do not think that's true whatsoever. Every real estate agent runs their business differently. It's so true. And a lot of people have different morals and different ethics and different knowledge and, so many different things. So it's really important. I always tell people like interview at least 3 agents. Just get a feel for who you vibe with, who you relate with, who you trust, because every agent is different. And I pride myself in really giving the knowledge, all of the knowledge that's out there to my buyers or to my sellers so they can make an educated decision. Because at the end of the day, it's them who's making the decision, and I'm just there to empower them. So those are my biggest 2.
And then, Nicole, are there any challenges you're currently facing in the current real estate market? And if so, how are you working to overcome them?
I'm trying to think. Well, it is an election year, and that's always tricky. I'm finding that people who have to move because of like job relocation or whatever the case is are still moving. But there's a lot of people on the fence right now because of the election and they're just holding off on that. And I'm not a pushy agent. So if that's what you feel like you need to wait for in order to buy, that's fine. So that's something, that I'm seeing currently.
Nicole, I'm curious, we're wrapping up 2024. How are you, doing on your goals for this year, and how are you looking ahead to 2025?
So I think my biggest goal, because this was my first full year in Savannah, it's so crazy to think about this, but the first couple months when I was, in Savannah, and I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to make money? How am I going to do this? How am I going to sell homes by myself, right? Because I'm not on a team. I made a vision board, and I just put like 6 figures just on my vision board. And I'm like, oh, that'd be really crazy if I did that. But like, I'm gonna put it on there. And I hit 6 figures, I think, 6 months through 2024. So that was really crazy that I did that, because I did not think that was going to be possible. And I'm trying to think what else I put on there. I mean, I put a dog. We got a golden retriever puppy, so that happened. But that's more personal. And then for 2025, I think some of my goals are to just create more of like a support system around me. For work purposes, I think eventually I would like to hire an assistant. Really like nail down some great vendors that I feel like I can trust and refer out to. I think sell like at least double what I did this year, because if I did that for my first year, I know I can do it my second year. And just really fine tuning all of my systems. Like I want to feel like, whenever I get the lead, like from start to finish, I have a system, and like half of that is probably just like on auto, because technology is what it is today and it's capable of doing that. And I would love for that to happen. So it's really fine tuning all of that. So yeah.
Well, that's wonderful. Congratulations on such a wonderful first year in Savannah. And I'm so excited to see what next year brings for you. Nicole, would you like to let people know how they can find you and how they can follow you and work with you?
Sure. So on Instagram, you can find me at Home Sweet Nicole. I also have YouTube. I think it's at Home Sweet Savannah. I have a website, Home Sweet Savannah, and I think that's about it. I'm on TikTok too, but if you go to my Instagram, Home Sweet Nicole, I have a link tree and you can find all of that jazz there. So
excellent. We will link it in the show notes so people can find you with just a click. Nicole, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, and I love getting able to tell my story.
Thank you for listening to The Closing Table, brought to you by WindowStill. I'm Kat Schooler. Please be sure you're following our podcast on Apple or Spotify, and if you're part of our YouTube audience, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you're enjoying our podcast, please feel free to leave us a comment or review. It helps us find more amazing listeners like you. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.